It's your Locked On Flyers podcast for Wednesday, July 12th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is checking out the competition in the division.
Oh yeah, it's pretty stiff.
It is. We're going to get into what the rest of the Metro division has been up to so far this summer, all on today's show.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there. Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. Locked On Flyers is on Threads and Instagram at Locked On Flyers as well. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. You can subscribe or follow us for free over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, you'll get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Just a programming note, we're recording this a little bit earlier than normal for a Wednesday show. So any news that happens over the last couple of days, we'll get caught up on our takes on all of that on the Thursday and Friday shows. In the meantime, we wanted to do a little roundup of the Metro division because I think that while we know the Flyers are in a rebuild right now, it's still important to keep track of what's going on elsewhere
Oh
and
yeah,
see if the Flyers are going to be able to keep pace in the medium term, right?
yeah. No, I mean it's a good measuring stick. It is.
Yeah, and especially with, so much change happening with some of the other teams in the division and so many other teams getting stronger in the division, I think it's going to be a real slog on the schedule this year, playing games against some of these tough teams and just, starting off with who we think has had the best off season so far. I think, we have to put a pin in some of it, especially with one of the two teams that I was wavering between, and I couldn't decide who's had a better offseason, the Carolina Hurricanes or the New Jersey Devils for my two top choices.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean toward the Hurricanes just because I did feel like they needed to do more. Um, adding Dmitry Orlov was good. Adding Michael Bunting was great.
Yes.
That may be their best signing, honestly. Uh, the goaltending's the same. Re-signing Jesper Fast, I'm a Jesper Fast guy, so I thought that was
Yeah.
smart. And now, trying to get Eric Carlson, maybe trading Pesci, bringing in D'Angelo, like they're better if they get those things done. They're definitely better than last year, and they may have solved their offensive problems.
Yeah, I think that's been the biggest issue here is that the expectations for Carolina have been so high over
Yes,
the past several seasons, and they just haven't quite gotten there. And it's been,
they're pushing that rock
again,
up the hill.
they are, and I think some of these moves will help potentially get them there. I agree. The Michael Bunting deal was great. 3-year contract, 4.5 AAV. I think that's a real solid contract for both
Yes.
sides on that. And I think if they could get Eric Carlson, I mean, what a coup that would be for them.
Yeah, I think that changes the dynamic of the team because I think Brent Burns then can play a little bit more physical, doesn't have to be as offensive, and I think that does change things.
Yeah, I think it does as well. And it kind of really solidifies that battle for the top of the division between the Canes and kind of keeps them there with the New Jersey Devils, in my opinion. I think that trading for Tyler Toffoli was a really strong move
Hmm.
on their part. I think he adds a lot to, who's ever he's playing with. And I think that he'll be there to help support the young guys as well. I think having both Hughes in the lineup is going to be deadly for them this upcoming season.
It will.
But they finally ditched Mackenzie Blackwood. Um, and they signed Damon
Well, that
Severson
was a
and
sign and
Eric Holla.
trade. That was a sign
Well,
and trade. They signed him, but then they traded him to the Blue Jackets.
So yeah, so they finally got rid of Blackwood, which had been sort of hanging over their heads for a little bit. And then signing Timo Meyer, I think, was a big part of their offseason as well.
It was. We didn't see a ton of impact last year. They have to get a lot more impact for this kind of money, like offensively. They just have to. He can't be that all around guy that's hitting guys and playing good defense. He's actually got to score too. So a lot of pressure on Timo for the first time in his career. He's going to really have to push through that. We'll see if he can.
Yeah, I think it is going to be interesting, especially because, again, the Canes did such a good job this offseason. The Devils have had such amazing, lottery luck in the draft and have drafted extremely well over the past several years. But this year, they didn't have a ton of picks. And so it's not like they got somebody that's going to be an impact player this year in the way that a Jack Hughes would have been. And I think that Nico Hischier is coming into his own
He
right
is.
now, and had a tremendous season this past year. And so I just think, these new pieces plus the returnees, like the re-signings, yeah, I do think it's going to be a Canes Devils battle again.
Yeah, it very well could be. I mean, Dawson Mercer keeps getting better. You're going to have Luke Hughes there. Uh, I don't know um, if they're going to be able to fit in any other defensemen, but we'll see because that's another thing where they're so deep they could actually do that. So I know Hughes will make the roster for sure, but I don't know if Nemec is going to make it or not.
Yeah,
That's
that'll
the whole
be
thing. I'm thinking about it, but I don't know.
yeah, that'll be a definite question mark at camp for them. Um, it'll be kind of borderline. And do you
Yeah.
think they send him back, or does he do AHL time?
No, they won't send him back. It'll be AHL time and maybe coming up later in the year. Like that's what I think Simone Nemec's path is probably going to be. Hughes is making the team right out of the gate. That's obvious.
Yeah, I think so as well. Were there any other teams that you would have considered for having the best off season, or is it really just the Canes in your eyes?
Yeah, I think it's really those. I mean, I don't think it's the Rangers were so. They didn't have a lot of money to spend. The Capitals were so. So no, I think it was between these two.
Yeah, I think so as well. But there's so much more to discuss. Some of those other teams who we thought was like the most confusing. We'll talk about the division as a whole, who's going to be better, who's going to take a step back, and we will do all of that coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs. I look better and feel great wearing Birddog shorts and pants. I like their stretchy fabric. It's very, very comfortable. The cloud knit fabric looks like khaki, but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit. I really do like the knit though, and the anti-sweat wicking on both is terrific, and you can wear them for long term. I definitely wear them for driving. I'll be on a baseball trip later this month. I'll be wearing those in the car for sure, and use them when I mow the lawn. Go to birddogs.com/lockedonnhl and enter promo code lockedonnhl for a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedonnhl for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your bird dogs off, we promise you.
Talking more about what's going on in the rest of the Metro this coming season based on their off season so far, I think looking at the division as a whole, it feels like it's more competitive, but a lot of the rest of the teams that we haven't discussed maybe just like maintained with what they did, right?
Yeah, I think, well, especially the Islanders. I think if there's a team that maintained, it's the Islanders. I don't think they did anything to really help their cause. The Penguins will be a wild card because maybe they'll be really fired up with Kyle Dubas and a few of those pickups. Um, that could change. Jari is a favorite of Mike Sullivan. They brought him back in the fold, but he's got to stay healthy. The Rangers are definitely still really good. I mean, the Rangers, I think, are no worse than third, could be second. So I think after that, it's the Islanders and Penguins. And then after that, we'll see about the Jackets. I don't know where to place them this year. That one year I thought they'd be in the playoffs. Everything went wrong out of the gate, and they just were a terrible team first year of Johnny Gaudreau. But I expect them to be better this year with all the different changes. So, but are they a playoff team now? Now that's where I have to kind of wonder.
Yeah, I think, if you're looking at teams that were a little confusing this summer so far, I would put Columbus and the Rangers in that bucket. I think that I don't know that I like the Provy deal for them, honestly. I just
I don't
I don't
dislike it. I
know.
think it helps them. Fantilli's going to help them.
Yes,
Um,
that's for sure. I think where they kind of won was on the drafting side of things and
yeah,
not so much the free agency side of
and Jiricek,
things.
right? Jiricek, yeah, Jiricek in with another year under his belt. If he gets a call up, should look pretty good. If they wait a little while, that's fine too. So it's just hard to read them. It's really hard to read them.
Yeah, I think so too. And then on the Rangers side of things, they did get, decently older, signing 3 35 and over contracts with Nick Bonino, Jonathan Quick as a backup for them, I think is risky. Blake Wheeler, I think, was the best of the three in terms of those older guy signings. But still, it's like, what version of Blake Wheeler are we getting now?
Yeah, I mean, he had a fair amount of points last year. He's definitely a veteran. He's a lot slower than you'd like him to be, but they got him cheap. So, if he gets 50 points for you, you're still happy. So, they're hoping he's that version of Blake Wheeler.
Yeah. In addition to that, the Rangers signed Eric Gustafson, Riley Nash, and Tyler Pitlick, who we know and love.
Oh yeah.
Um, I think that their draft was fine. They just had limited
Yeah.
picks. Gabe Perreault was their most notable name, and he's
Yeah.
not going to hit the Rangers this year
No.
for sure. So I think there's not really a big impact there, and that's where I wonder, like, can they break that ceiling of the Devils and Canes? And I think it's possible, but I don't know.
It's up to Peter Laviolette, honestly. New coach, they come out hard out of the gate. If they're all offensive, and they really step on the gas that way, yeah, they could probably put a scare into these top teams, and maintain that top spot in that division. But will they? I don't know. It's a little early.
Yeah, I don't know either. Then, the other two teams that are sort of maintaining but could be wild cards, you don't know, the Islanders and the Penguins. And you mentioned with the Penguins, they did re-sign Tristan Jarry. I think it's a risky deal, 5 years at 5.375 million. I think given Jari's injury history and his inconsistency playing, like, to
But
be
we said that,
honest.
at times that was said about Matt Murray, and he ended up winning 2 cups. So maybe if he does put it all together, he is going to do that. I loved him coming out of the draft, but injuries
Sure.
have certainly changed how I feel about him. But he is still talented, so you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to doubt Kyle Dubas and his
Yeah,
ability to put a team together. I think some of the other moves were pretty solid. I like their trading for Riley Smith from Vegas.
yeah. I mean, Smith
Um,
is a great penalty killer, and he's
mhm.
fast.
Yeah, love that. Love the Lars Eller 2 year, 2.45. I think that's
Yep,
exactly what you sign Lars Eller for, and he's going to
good
contribute
veteran that
a
will
lot.
contribute in all
Yeah,
facets. Yeah.
and Ryan Graves as well
That one's a
is a
little
good
questionable as far as the term, but yeah, he'll
right.
help. He's a really good
I
defender. He'll block shots, but the term I don't love on that.
Yeah, I think with that deal, in my opinion, they were really looking to solidify the defense, especially because of Tristan Jarry's injury history, and
Right,
you want to shore up that blue line, and you still have a limited time left with your Crosby Malkin era, and so if you
right.
have to pay Ryan Graves a little bit more for a few more years in order to still have that window for the next 2 years, I think you do it, right?
Yeah, I don't know. You're adding duct tape to a boat that's taking on water, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's why where I take it is that they're doing everything they can to make Crosby
Because
and
if
Malkin
Kyle Dubas had
happy.
his choice, he'd be rebuilding now,
Yeah.
but he doesn't have his
Oh,
choice right
he
now.
does not. He does not at all. And I think that's going to be frustrating for him because he's like a build from scratch kind of guy, right?
Yes.
And
Oh
coming
yeah.
in midstream is very difficult for him.
Yeah. So he'll have to play that game for a couple of years at least.
Yeah, and then your take on the Islanders, of course, no brainer to get Varlamov and Sorokin, um, and so they're
Although the
set.
term on Varlamov's long for an older goalie, but yeah, I agree.
I mean, I don't think they had a choice there
No, probably not.
if they wanted to keep him. And then, I think trading Josh Bailey to clear the cap space so
That was
that
smart.
that was really smart so they can sign Engvall and Scott Mayfield.
Engvall
Um,
contract is not smart. It's
no,
just
but
not.
they had to clear the cap space to do it,
I
and
know,
they
but that's a
they
bad
did that.
contract.
Yeah, that put those. So the part A of the work was good in terms of getting rid of the Josh Bailey
Right.
contract. It was like I mean they're Engvall and Mayfield, they're not huge impact guys,
No,
but
but you know what
important.
it's like? It's like, "Oh, look,
Yeah.
I just saved $700, on buying this car. Now I just bought Bitcoin with it." You know what I mean? Like, that's
Well,
what they
it
did.
could be. It could be.
And I like Engvall as a player, but not for that many years.
Yeah. No, I know. I know. That was kind of a weird deal, but as we know, Lou sometimes comes in hot late and will make some additional moves.
This was like autopilot Lou, though.
Yeah. Well, but that's what I'm saying, like later in the summer or like
Yeah.
after we have this conversation, maybe some additional
Or for
things
that hockey
happen.
trade that he was talking about. You know how hard those are gonna be to make
I
now?
know. I
Good luck.
know.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, like, they were never seriously in on DeBrincat. I mean, let's
No.
be honest.
No,
So,
where are they gonna fit him? Like,
no, there was just no place for him there.
no.
So, I think that whole thing, and obviously the Islanders, because of the deals they've been making and trying to win now, they just had no like not really any consequential draft picks in this draft. So I think I think uh, that's going to start to bite them in the next few years. That they're just not going to have a full prospect pool to work with.
No, but I like the Danny Nelson pick. I actually think, he will be like their next Brock Nelson type. He might
Hmm.
not be as offensive as Brock Nelson, but Nelson wasn't even as offensive as he turned into, but he does a lot of things that Nelson does. So, that's a good pick for them.
Yeah. Finishing up the division with the Washington Capitals again. You always think like, is this the year that they're finally going to do that bigger downturn? I think they did this past year, but are they going to tread water here, or is it going to get worse? And they were doing everything they could to try and not get worse. Picking up Joel Edmondson from the Habs, I
I
think,
mean,
is a fill in.
it helps a bit. The biggest thing that helped is that Miroshnichenko came over. He's an exciting player, and I think that could really help them offensively. Rasmus Sandin could get 55, 60 points this year. Especially if John Carlson has taken a step back or he gets hurt again, and Sandin's the main power play guy. Watch out! I mean, that's an untapped talent that really the Leafs didn't get full use out of because of Morgan Riley and kind of the way they played. You saw, I mean, Sandin had a heck of a year for the Caps
He
last year.
did. He really did. And I think, in combination with their draft, I think they're really setting themselves up well for the future. Obviously, we may be a little biased here, but they picked Ryan Leonard and Andrew Cristall,
That's a
who were,
grand slam in my book.
yeah, I know, I know. And then they got Cam Allen further down
Yeah,
in the
who
draft
I
as well,
like.
who, yeah, and we talked about a lot. And so you have to be super impressed with the draft that they had. And it feels like whenever, the OV period is over and some of the other guys are gone as well,
Listen,
and
Ross
Tom,
Mahoney's always done a good job there. I chat with him once in a while. He's a super bright guy, and if you go back and look at their drafting and development, it's always been good.
yeah, it's real solid. So I don't think like there's going to be a break with this team. I think this little dip is about as low as it's going to get, and
Yeah,
then they'll climb back up again,
yeah. I think the
right?
Miroshnichenko thing is a key. If he's really ready for the NHL, he could spark, you know, Kuznetsov. He could help do all that because they haven't been able to get rid of Kuznetsov. So,
Yeah, yeah. So it's going to be a tough division overall. I think
yep.
that the Flyers are going to have a very difficult time getting wins. And we know, again, it's year one of this rebuild. So wins may not be a high expectation for the team, but it certainly is for John Tortorella. And it certainly is good for guys to get some experience winning. And this division is going to make it very difficult to do so.
And watch Macklin Celebrini just in case.
Yeah. So at any rate, it's going to be a tough Metro division again this year, and we'll continue to keep an eye on any additional moves made around the division. If the Canes manage to get Eric Carlson, oof, watch out.
Oh yeah.
All right, we are going to get to some of your mailbag questions coming up next. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and then get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet 20 bucks and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's 200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over under to who you think is going to hit the first home run in any game. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today. Visit fanduel.com/locked on to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's fanduel.com/locked on. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. So we've got a few really good questions from our listener mailbag here to wrap up today's show. Shannon Sanford sent in another really good question. Are there any issues with going over the cap and then becoming compliant by putting Ellis on LTIR once the season starts?
Well, they're not going to be in that position. They will save money when that happens with Ellis, and you can go 10% over on the summer cap, but it's insignificant. They're not going to be in any trouble.
No, and I think they'll be able to with some of the younger guys. They'll be able to juggle what they need to, like they did
Yeah,
this past season,
yeah,
to get cap compliant and then do the transactions in
yes.
order to get the lineup that they want to ice. I'm very interested to see if they have a 23-man roster this season, or is it going to be 21 or 22 like
No,
they've
it should
done?
be 23. If they do the 21-22 business, that's not going to be good. They need
Like
to.
just to try and bank cap space. I don't think they're going to have to play this game as much as they did this
No,
past season
I
with
don't
cap
think so.
space, right? Yeah. Another YouTube comment from GLA Framb. Apologies, I don't know how to read that out, but looking to compare kind of the Montreal picks versus the Flyers picks. So, do you prefer Cam York and Matvey Michkov or Cole Caulfield and David Reinbacher?
It's a good question. I'm still going to lean towards Cole Caulfield and Reinbacher. Uh, Not by a lot, but I think just by a hair.
Yeah, it's hard to say because I feel like based on what we know now, I think you're right, Russ, but I just think the potential is so much bigger for it to swing the other way.
It's possible. It is possible. No question about it. But right now, well, that's just the way I feel.
Yeah, I think definitely a to be determined, but I'm going to stick with the Flyers
Okay.
choices for now because I have to. I just have to because it's I want to trust their draft picks here.
Okay.
All right, our friend Andrew Frossett comes back with another good question. Was there anything noticeably different from how development camp was run or organized this year compared to the past?
I mean, I saw a lot more personnel, so you hope that because of that they got more individual training that way. I did see a couple new wrinkles, a couple different new drills. I don't know anything else. Nobody's really talked about anything else of that maybe was new that they uh, instituted, but I just feel like the feeling was a little better. So I think overall it was better.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that, like I said when we reviewed it, I think that um, just the tone felt better. I think the energy
Hmm.
felt better. I think the positivity was there. I think that it didn't feel like there was a ton of pressure on the kids. It just felt like a really genuine learning environment. And there was
Well, there's no
expectations too.
expectations now, so that definitely took the
Yeah.
pressure off for sure.
Like right. It felt like even from people observing them outside of the camp experience, that the players were experiencing, I think people weren't looking for too much out of these guys. There was like a real sense of realism when looking
Yeah,
at what these guys were doing at camp and just understanding where we are and saying, yeah, some of these guys have a long way to go, but they can get there. Like we see what they're trying to do here.
yeah,
And that's, I think, the biggest difference to me. It was like last year kind of felt like this pressure cooker of, some of the younger guys just have to take giant leaps forward this year in order to make this aggressive retool thing that Chuck Fletcher was doing happen. And we were looking for every little nook and cranny of performance at dev camp of like, are they going to be able to accomplish this? But this year it just felt like more like a pure development camp to me.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I agree with that.
Yeah, so I think it was a positive step for sure. Jeff via email asks another good question. When does the Briere era switch from clearing the decks from the Chuck Fletcher time and making the team his own, or has that started already?
No, it started already. I mean, just because they're in a rebuild doesn't mean you still don't sort of look at all those things and start, thinking, are they doing a good job fixing that? Because that's still, you know, plan number one is to fix that stuff and to improve on it. So I think that's begun. I don't think it's been perfect. Some of the deals have been okay, but some of the things are just necessary. So it's kind of like, you cleared out some of the floodwaters. Now you hope that, you don't have major damage in the basement. I know it's like my third analogy today, but it's one of those things where it's sort of like incremental.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, I think the Flyers are a little bit into the Briere era, but I think what they've done so far this offseason that they've done a lot of the work in terms of the cap situation in
Yeah.
order to set themselves up as best as possible. Some things they weren't able to do in terms of getting rid of some additional cap space as of yet, but we'll see. The summer is not over yet. But I think that at least Danny Briere is headed in the right direction there. And yeah, there's a lot more work to do, but I would say, we're kind of 1/3 in Briere's era and 2/3 still dealing with what Chuck Fletcher did right now.
Yeah, I just hope that Danny kind of, when he goes to the beach, uses some sunscreen. He's really white. So
He
I don't want to
is.
see him get too sunburned.
He is. Okay. Well, maybe he's going to, the cabin somewhere as
Maybe.
well. And it won't be the
Or he'll
beach,
have an
but
umbrella, he'll sit under an umbrella maybe.
yeah, we'll see. But obviously, more to come, and keeping track of the division, keeping track of the Flyers this summer. Tomorrow, we are going to talk more about what we just talked about a little bit, looking at where the Flyers organization was a year ago versus where they are now, and what the progress is, and what we need to do to keep it going moving forward.
Yeah, it would be great.
As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. If you want your mailbag question answered on the show, you can tweet us at Lockdown Flyers, email us at lockdownflyers@gmail, or comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great day, everyone.